Yo, what's up, Ruben?
All right, man. Yeah, now we're going. We're in. We're in.
Sick.
Dude, Manuel, Citrus City Records.
Yo, Mr. Dante Elephante.
How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm chilling, dude. I kind of woke up late today,
Yeah, yeah,
so
me
I've been
too.
like catching up on a lot of things, and then I saw that I barely have any clothes, so I was like, dang, I gotta do laundry.
Yeah, totally. I get that. I get that,
hmm
man. That's cool, man. Are you in New York?
Yeah, I'm here in Brooklyn.
Okay, cool. How's the scene over there? Is everything locked down again?
Um, yeah, everything is pretty on lockdown. No shows or anything.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously no shows or nothing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
work at Baby's All Right, and
Oh, I love that place.
yeah, it's a really cool spot. I don't for the meantime, I do not think we're gonna come back this year. It's gonna be
Yeah.
next year, so I can only imagine so many other places
Yeah.
are in the same predicament. But then in Richmond, because that's where I'm from. I'm from Virginia,
Uh-huh.
so I'm hearing about some venues opening up soon, which I
Damn.
kind of don't get, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like to each their own, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, in Santa Barbara, I got an email that the we have like one venue now, Soho, and they're planning to open up in August to their
Mm,
patio, and then the patio sits 36 people, and you have to bring your own mic, and it's just like, damn.
it sounds like too much, you know?
It's like my whole thing is like you're a restaurant, like
Yeah.
be a restaurant, like just promote that, like. But I don't
hmm
know. That's just my opinion for them, but yeah, I don't know.
No, I
Um,
totally feel you.
that's so crazy, man. Yeah. Funny story about me and Baby's All Right. First time I went to New York to shoot a music video. I was sitting. I like left my Airbnb. I was like, oh well, Baby's All Right. It's just right next to my Airbnb, and I was sitting there, and I got the vegan tacos at the bar. And
hmm
as soon as I was like, oh, let me look at my phone. And then I was just scrolling through my phone, and it started the boot loop. It just started turning off and on, off and on. I was like, oh shit.
Oh,
Like
damn.
I am not from New York. This is my first time on the East Coast. I am lost. So then I went back to my Airbnb and just like used my laptop to figure out where the closest Verizon store was. And yeah, it was a headache, man.
Dude, the first time I ever been to New York, I remember going on the subway, the train, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I at first I sucked at navigating like
Yeah.
how or where to go, and my phone was like I had dropped my phone like earlier, so the screen was cracked, and so
Oh no.
when I was using it, I guess I had touched it a certain way where it just like froze, and I couldn't do anything, and I'm just like shit, I don't know where to go. I had to ask like this Dominican lady, like, yo, can I use your phone real quick, like, and I and,
That
and I had to like I like called myself like a Uber to go back to my Airbnb, but then I
yeah.
logged into my Venmo account on her phone, Venmoed
Oh.
her, and it was
Yeah.
just like a whole thing that I'm just like, yo, I can't do the city, but it it
Yeah. So how long have you been living in New York?
I've been living in New York for, I would say it's been a year and a few months.
Okay, cool. So you like it now? Now you've gotten used to it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not too crazy about it.
Yeah.
I only came for like work related purposes.
Yeah.
Um, and not, I don't know. I'm just not that crazy of a city person. But if I want to live in the city, I prefer moving out west,
Okay, yeah.
more. So, um, but I mean, it's pretty cool. I definitely like that. There's um, as opposed to Richmond in the area that I was living in. It's a lot more diverse, a
Mm.
lot more like stores and things where I can, you know, get drinks or food that I'm a bit more like accustomed to from like home and stuff. So
Totally.
there's like this like cool like little Guatemalan like spot, and I go and eat like desayunos típicos and things like
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
like
Totally.
yeah. And in Richmond, I had to go more out in the outskirts of it because that's where more of the like Latinx community is out. A lot of like the migrant like families and stuff. So
I'm actually a little shocked that there is any bit of that community in Richmond. Like I really didn't see any of it when I was there.
yeah,
And maybe that's
that's
on me, like I didn't look hard enough, but yeah.
no. I mean, it's not. It's just the area that they live in. It's like if we have like the center of a cake,
Mhm.
the more further you're like out, like let's say to like the beginning of the cake,
Yeah.
uh like the edge, that's where they're at. And that's just because of like economically it's a whole lot affordable for them. There's a lot more jobs where they're you know
Yeah.
looking to hire undocumented like labor.
Totally.
And ICE isn't as like prevalent in that sort of area.
Interesting.
So it like sucks. I mean, there's a few little things, but a lot of it is just like white owned shit that
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, you're really gonna try to like charge me $12 for freaking two al pastor tacos? Like you're fucking crazy. And you're gonna put like the freaking like shredded cheese and like I'm just like, no,
Yep, yep.
I can't do that. So
There's like a weird like as soon as you leave Houston, you just know when you're on tour like that's it. There's no more, great Mexican food until I hit Chicago, really. Like, well, there's good Mexican food in New York, but like for me it's just like yeah, I didn't notice anything until like Chicago and I was like, "Oh, thank
yo,
God."
Chicago, there's so much good like Mexican food, like Latin
Totally.
American food in general. I was so because I know that a lot of like bandas norteñas and stuff
Yeah.
start in Chicago, and so I was like, okay, yeah, there's a big Mexican community there. But I think the last time I went and I was like walking around, I was like, yo, this like there's a bunch of
It,
heads out here.
it
What the
feels like
fuck?
LA. Like it feels like Los Angeles to me. And my family on my father's side came from Michoacan and they either went to LA, Santa Barbara, or Chicago.
Yeah.
Like it's so weird. So I had a feeling going into it. I was like, oh, Chicago, like I'm gonna feel like it's gonna feel like a little homey. And then it was. I was like, damn, this is tight.
Yeah,
I love
Chicago
it,
is
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Richmond. I can't remember the venue I played in Richmond, but
I think y'all played the Camel,
Camel.
perhaps.
Yeah,
Because
possibly.
I I want to say either Camel, Strange Matter,
Yeah.
or Gallery 5. Either one of those three, or maybe one of the bigger ones. I don't know. Were you on tour with someone?
That's a depend. I can't remember now. So now they're all kind of blending into one now. Now I'm scrolling through my Instagram. Uh, this is great podcast. Me scrolling.
We got to get to the facts.
I know it's true. Wow.
Here, let me see if I can find it.
Broadberry.
Oh, the Broadberry, the Buttberry.
Yeah, yeah. What's the story behind that place? I barely remember that show.
Uh, they just call it that because I mean, it's like it's it's a great staff because I had a show. I booked Crumb there for their last
Oh,
tour.
cool.
That was like my first show booking. Well, second one because I helped put on that like when Alex G played there.
Yeah.
But um, I don't know. It's just a name that started. I don't know where, but when I moved there, people were like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go see Wild Nothing at the Broadberry. They're like, oh, the Buttberry. I'm like, why? There's like this kind of like thing where the Broadberry is the very stuck up sort of
Yeah,
like venue, and it's like kind of owned by like the cool thing is that it's artist owned.
that's cool.
So they own the Broadberry and they own the Camel.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but now it's morphed into this weird like show monopoly sort of thing
Hmm.
where beforehand it's like, okay, the Broadway and the Camel was the venue that any shows that they would book because they have their in-house bookers, you know what I mean? They would
Totally.
book, they either, depending on how big it is, it's like either at the Camel where it's like 350 cap
Yeah.
to the Broadway, which I think is
Like
like five.
six.
It's like 550,
Okay.
600. I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere around that. So um where it made sense, but with the closing of Strange Matter um a few years back, um they sort of were like, the demand for shows kind of got up,
Hmm.
since we lost a really like prominent venue. And so what happened is that then a lot of their shows, like, and Richmond doesn't have that many venues,
Yeah.
like traditional venues. Like they have a lot, we have a lot of like musical spaces where it's like a restaurant or cafe happens to have this
Totally.
space where they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And while that's cool, it's not, it's a restaurant at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's like a cafe. It's like a honky tonky bar. Like that's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Totally.
and music is never like the prime factor because it's like, like you said, I've been hit before where I want to throw a show and they're like, oh hey, do you have like a PA system and everything? And I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, like, but I got it, like I have nowhere else to put on this show. Or they're like, oh, so um like we're gonna have someone work door, and sometimes they then are like, oh, but it's gonna be this amount that you have to pay them, like, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
nah. I was like, and then I have to find someone to do door. It's like,
It
uh
becomes a whole thing. It's a big production just to throw on the show that you hope people will come to, and
yeah.
yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know, those are fun because for depending on the lineup, people really come out, but still there's like a it's really hard to get people to come out because they're like, oh, Carey Street Cafe, yeah, that place is cool, but do I really want to go see a band at Carey Street Cafe? You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
I go eat like my lunch and stuff, where it's like, I don't know, it's typically known for that, for being like a restaurant. But um, yeah, they just started to move their shows like at Gallery 5 and
Yeah.
um,
Is that an actual art gallery?
yeah, so it's an art gallery slash
Cool.
venue. It's like a community art space. It's really
Oh, that's
cool.
awesome.
And it was like in the verge of like getting bought out by the university, but luckily someone stepped in and like purchased it, even though it's like, I think in this weird transitional phase because they had this upstairs part where they had a lot of like art shows.
Mm-hmm.
But traditionally, this like the building itself was an old like fire station, firehouse
Got it.
station. So it needed a lot of renovation. So with this new buyer, they're like fixing it back up. But one of the things is that upstairs got is gonna get turned into like this like workspace for like up and coming businesses and stuff.
Whoa.
So it's just like the upstairs part was really cool, but I mean, the downstairs isn't affected. But yeah, art space and venue, it's really cool. First
Whoa.
Fridays they do these big events where it's like an art show and it's like curated for like a theme, and they have like maybe 4 or 5 bands playing. It's like free,
That's awesome.
donation based, and like a lot of people really come out. It's really cool. You have like
Damn, that's really cool.
local local artists and vendors. And I've done a show where we've had, actually, that band Boyo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Boyo and Hala play there.
Killer.
And yeah, it's cool to see having it donation based and like people donate, and I guess folks coming together like wanting to throw, I don't know, it First Friday shows are really cool for a touring band because like even though it's a free donation based like show, sometimes bands walk away with like $400 or $500.
That's great. Yeah,
You know what
that's
I mean?
really good. And on the road, you'll take it, man. You
Yeah.
know, those kind of paying gigs don't come around very often.
Yeah.
There's a great place in Reno called the Holland Project. That's kind of like that too.
Oh, cool.
The galleries in the front, and then the back they use as like a venue, and that's another place that's just like they don't have a lot going on, but people like to come out to shows, and they're eager and they're excited. And I kind of got
Hmm.
that vibe from Richmond too. Like the kids who came out were really excited, and they bought merch, and it was fun. Yeah. Are you born and raised in Richmond, or how'd you end up in Richmond?
I was born and raised in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
So I kind of moved around so much growing up. Like I have lived in every sort of like stereotypical area
Yeah.
of Virginia, and like the areas where like when people hear of Virginia, they're like, "Oh shit, Virginia, like super country and like, you know,
Totally.
build the wall like shit." Like I lived in areas like that, and then I've lived in just normal, very like white centric like suburbs, like, you know. But
Yeah.
I grew up in this area, Northern Virginia, um, little towns like Arlington, Alexandria, Woodbridge.
Cool.
I moved to Orange County, Virginia, which is like maybe like 45 minutes is where Monticello, where Thomas Jefferson used to live.
Totally.
A bunch of Confederate like war battlegrounds. So like
Oh
I
my
used to
god.
like from fourth to eighth grade, I lived there, and then I moved to the suburbs like in high school in this area called Stafford, very like military family
Mm-hmm.
based, and like not myself, but the area.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, just kind of stick around, and I moved to Richmond for like college.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you think? Well, maybe you wouldn't really know, but like education down the south, do you think it's painted a little different over there?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's painted in such a manner because so I have a degree in Virginia history,
Yeah.
and a lot of the things that they taught us in public school was pretty much painted in a way to, you know, make the realities of the war in like the South, like, you know what I mean, during the
Yeah.
Reconstruction area and everything. To really, it's just like, no, you have to be proud of it with this whole like Southern pride and stuff. Um, the whole like lost cause and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until community college. I went to community college, and there I got like a just degree in Virginia history. And there it was just like my professors were like, all right, y'all, what fucking sucks is that they've taught you literally all of this, and for right now we're gonna have to freaking unpack all that
Wow.
and tell the truth. So so it was cool go taking those classes and learning where it's like, damn, y'all, like, and I already had an idea because I'm just like, I don't know, y'all, like something about this doesn't feel right. And then me
Yeah.
just getting to like a conscious, I would say maybe in like ninth grade, I got into this that super like, I don't know, stereotypical like radical phase where I'm like, yeah, man, like listening to Nirvana, freaking
Totally.
reading freaking Che Guevara, and like
Yeah.
bunch of just like, I don't know, communist reading. I don't know, just starting to read things and starting to then figure out my whole identity and being like, oh, being Latin American and first gen and like in the South is so weird sometimes. And like, I don't know. Yeah, I just looked into like, I've always liked history. So from, I guess, around ninth grade, I was looking into things and already being um, like not standing up, saying like, you know, the Pledge of Allegiance. I was just
Yeah.
like, you know, being like, oh, well, it's my right. Legally, I don't, like, you know what I mean? It's not a forced thing, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And things like that. But yeah, but in college, learning more on how there was like a evangelical like priest that because a lot of the first Africans that came to the United States, the first 50, they were indentured servants, and they worked out their indentured servitude and became, you know, like became free. You know, there was like an area where they in Virginia where they started to, like, you know, build their own communities, have their autonomous say. But it wasn't until this like evangelical priest
Mm-hmm.
that was trying, a lot of the event, what the problem with like indentured servitude is that they wouldn't stay for their duration of like the contract, right? So if their contract was like, let's say 5 years, since a lot of them weren't able to read, um you know, the person who like paid, like, you know, for like their ship ticket or anything to get over, they would change the contract. sort of things, making it longer. But some people would have a sense of time where it's like, nah, like I'm gonna die an indentured servant, and that's not why I came. Like I wanted
Yeah.
to, like, so people would run off from their indentured servitude. So when that issue was going on, this evangelical priest was like, well, realistically, like due to the color of their skin, like because we're white, we're more enlightened to like God, and it's our duty. And then that's when
Mm.
all the bogus like scientific, claims were coming out, where it's like, they like people just have like smaller like brains, et
Yeah,
cetera, et
totally.
cetera. But in Virginia is where it's just crazy, where that was like the epicenter of like the slave trade, and Richmond was the capital of like the slave trade at one point. That was like
Wow.
really weird to think that, I don't know, sometimes in certain areas in the country now where it's like you go there for a certain thing, but at that time it was just like to go own, like go purchase somebody. And
Yeah.
so it's so weird a lot of the times thinking about that in certain areas where I'm just like, geez, like this
And
is too much.
and without the ability, college isn't for everyone, and most
Yeah,
people end
exactly.
up not going to college and don't get that chance to break everything down and finally get the truth, where the public education isn't a level playing field in United States. So my California education and how they taught us about the South is different than what you get over there in the South.
Oh
And
yeah, it's so, they say one thing that they really teach is that Robert E. Lee didn't he didn't agree with slavery, and the only
mm-hmm,
reason why he was fighting for the Confederacy is because he was from Virginia and he was a
mm,
proud Virginian and couldn't, in his own conscience, blah blah blah. But
mm-hmm,
what they don't tell you is that Robert E. Lee owned slaves
yeah,
that he got from his father, and that his father said after like 4 years after his passing that he can have them for 4 years, but then he would have to let them be free.
mm,
And Robert E. Lee kept legally trying to fight that to keep them like longer. Like they don't, and they don't tell you those things in public school, and it's very uh it really sucks that you have to like pay or like get into debt to get that actual information.
yeah,
Any actually information, because like I also took like Latin American history and like study classes in college, like
mm,
because like again, just being first gen, and that identity is this weird identity crisis where it's like, damn
yeah,
man, both sides kind of treat me a certain way, but it's like it's not that I'm benefiting from like the white side like that so much, where it's like, I don't know, it's so many just like things where it's like also uh being alienated. I found out about like so many things from fourth to eighth grade that I have like a simple idea about, because the area that I grew up in Northern Virginia is very like multicultural and racial.
mm-hmm,
And while in Orange County, Virginia, it was like me and my brother and maybe like one more like Latin American kid, a Honduran kid. But then everyone else was predominantly white and black.
mm,
So it was like a bunch of like, like black kids took me in the friend group, and like finding out like, I would used to be called like beaner and like wetback,
yep.
and like things where I'm just like, geez, I'm only in fifth grade. What the heck? So uh, yeah, I don't know. All that stuff
See
was like led to me wanting to like get deep into like
who
taking
you
those
are,
classes, and
yeah,
like yeah.
and really finding out who you are, and it's just such a different experience than growing up in Southern California, where most of my classroom was Mexican. Like
Yeah.
to see a white kid was more rare, and but maybe I was also because the neighborhood I was in. But like we were all Mexican. Like my best friend was Mexican. Like California was Mexico, so like I don't know. It's just like everything is still connected and deep rooted in Mexico. So when you hear things in California, like go back to Mexico, it's like yeah, well we kind of still are here. We never
Yeah.
left. Like Santa Barbara, the Mission, like it's all connected still.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I can't believe. Well, I can believe, but to grow up Latinx on the East Coast is like a whole new world as I've gotten older and traveling over there and meeting more because we don't have any really have a lot of Puerto Ricans over here. We don't have a lot of Guatemalans. Like Well, we have Guatemalans in LA, but not in Santa
Yeah,
Barbara. It's such a small community.
yeah, yeah.
It's
It
just
it definitely is. That's why like it's this thing when like a Latinx band like goes through the East Coast or something.
yeah,
I always notice the excitement of like, oh, this and this band is gonna come through. Holy shit! Like and like that sense of like I don't know camaraderie. It's and the
yeah,
thing is like we're out there, but it's like pockets of it and in certain areas, but it's not as so familiar where like you said like out west where it's like you'll be more surprised to see like a white kid in a certain area, a certain
yeah.
school, you know what I mean? While as like the schools that I went to, like leading up from like middle school, high school, it's just like a few of us, you know what I mean? Just kind of
Hmm.
there and you're kind of like at least it's funny where I think all of us are kind of like, well, I guess we should all be friends then. So like my friend group in high school was mostly made up of like Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, um, Haitian kids, like black kids.
Hmm.
Uh, I had a friend from like Trinidad, and we would call ourselves VFM, Virginia's Finest Minorities.
There you go.
So it's
That's
like
right.
I don't
That's
know.
right.
So it is always interesting seeing when there's like a lack of people that might necessarily like look like you know what I mean? It's still like a little like tight knit group that like I always see becoming formed.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. Yeah. I think as this COVID thing keeps going on, we kind of see that we need to stick together in every
Yeah,
other way, and realizing what faults are happening in our society, and with some of the craziness that's been going on Twitter, and people getting canceled and this that, it's like we need to find our people, the good people, and promote them. And I don't know, if the industry isn't going to fuck with us, we need to fuck with ourselves.
yeah. Just because at the end of the day, the way I see it is that you know, and it's always been like this in a way where the bigger some institutions have been around, they kind of lose touch of like reality or just like everyday people and just
Yeah.
everyday things. Um, that's like the way I really see it. So at the end of the day, it's the smaller folks, DIY folks, just independent artist labels like bookers, managers, whatever, more on like the independent circuit where
Yeah.
like I think there's just so much power in numbers and we've just been seeing that more and more people are getting fed up with like the major institutions, the major things that I think it is becoming slowly in a way where people are like with recently it's like a lot of black artists have always been raising these things, but it is really like for example the whole polyvinyl thing. It is really wild to think that you've been around since 1995,
Totally.
and that's like 25 years or some shit 20 I don't know, but it's like
Yeah.
it's really disappointing because it's like sometimes you just don't think about it because you just would assume that
Mm.
and so the fact when someone brought it up it's like wow that's crazy. And I mean I I'm a big fan of that label, but it's a thing where I'm like y'all like this label is cool and all, but sometimes we prioritize these folks so much that we blindly just become like part of the problem too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I mean, I didn't notice that, but when like a black artist called it out, where it's just like, damn, and I looked, I was like, y'all really don't. And then I, talked to someone from the label, and they were pretty much like, it was super cool, but then at the same time, I was like, all right, you're sending your like what I'm assuming, I hope not, maybe your only Latinx employee to,
Yeah.
to speak to a Latinx person about how like they're trying to rectify it. And
Yeah.
the person's really cool, and I'm really glad that already like they were saying she was saying how there wasn't that many like women employees or emphasis on like female um musicians and how they were advocating for that. And and I was telling them that takes a lot of strength and courage, but at the end of the
Totally.
day, I just am kind of like, I want to know what the owners think, because it's not y'all's responsibility to clean up the mess of something that's been going on since 1995.
Yeah.
Like, when I see these like white owned labels with predominantly like white male like artists, and just really like, I think about it, I'm like, do y'all not have any black or like POC friends like in your real life? Like,
Yeah.
because the way at least I see my label is that the things I release reflects my personal life and the interests and the people that I surround myself with, you know?
Totally.
And that's why it's like, sometimes there's some like a little more bedroom pop like records, some are post punk, some are like hip hop, more poppy or experimental, this and that. Like, it's not like a genre like curated so much thing, but like
Totally.
I get, but I don't know. That's just how I listen to music, and it's like I listen to black trans artists, like black like
Mm.
female artists, like et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. It's just weird to see where I'm just like, the way folks like shift their attention to things, and when they do pick an artist of color or a black artist, there's just already, I feel like, premeditated characteristics or things that they're like, oh, this all fits the thing, but it's all rooted in being like super commercial and making money.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of what I've seen, like, especially since 2016, after the Women's March, everyone was like, okay, it's time to promote women, and which is awesome. But then they forgot women of color.
Yeah,
They're
it's
like,
like,
oh, let's just promote our white women. It's
yeah,
like, all right.
and that's something that I'm glad that I see so many, like black artists, just black people in general, other like people of color, indigenous people, like I've been bringing up, where it's like, yo, super glad that women like femme um, are getting prioritized, but it's like, if it's like a whole like leak and they like put a little band-aid and they're like, we did it,
We
guys,
did it.
we like solved like the diversity issues, like we're inclusive now, and it's like still water, like, coming out, and it's just like, no, y'all, like white women does not make up for like black women, like black trans people,
Yeah.
like like I don't know, and like other women of color. It's just so crazy seeing that. And again, I think it's so interesting when these conversations are being had again a lot. I see some white people kind of scratching their head and being like, what did we like, I thought we did good last time, where it's just
Yeah.
like, because then I felt like, again, there's a thing with like tokenizing, and so many things are coming up. And I think one of the things to fix this is really like, um yeah, having more like a diverse staff, but realistically, I want to see a lot of these people putting like their money where their mouth is, and like, if you have the resources, how about you provide these distro deals for like black and like other POC like owned labels, or like,
Yeah.
if you see a manager or a booking like, thing run by like black people, or like people of color, support them in a way where it's like, give them your contacts, or like, vouch for them, or like give it, if I don't know, there's so many different things that, with like black people, they were enslaved, and then with like Jim Crow and so many of these like, racist laws, they've now like are still trying to catch up to the
Mm-hmm.
generational wealth that white people have created. And with like the industry, it's like still so like uneven. Like,
Yep.
I remember being in Detroit, and some of the folks in Crumb and I went to go take a tour of Motown, and they were telling us how like when Motown was getting started, being like one of the first, like only like a black run like record labels at the time, that so many white executives were like literally paying radio stations not to play their stuff
Mm-hmm.
because they were becoming so successful. And so what did they end up doing? They bought their own radio station. They started buying like they created their own like TV, like, production company, and like,
Yep.
because so much of like white media was not trying to consume because they were being successful. And
And be
so
and because there's like a limit on how many singles a label could
yeah,
have, that they started Tamla. They started
yeah,
like
they started
all
so
these
many. Oh,
subsidiaries so they can just keep releasing all these songs. Yeah, we did that tour when we got to Detroit, and it was just
it's so
such
sick.
so sick. It's such a mind blowing experience. It's like $30. Like if you got $30 in your pocket, like go, you have to go check out that house because it's really
Yeah,
about the house. You know, they show you like the little reverb chamber as you get close to
yeah.
the basement, and you do the clap, and you're like, oh shit, that's it. No plugin's
Dude,
gonna give you that. Like it's the
and
house.
so many hits were made in that space, and it's just such a, I don't know, it's just a really thing of history that I really
Yeah.
recommend people going, and they
Oh.
really do tell you back, like, and if that was so long ago, you can just see how this has just always been an issue. And
Mm-hmm.
so I like, you know, it to me it doesn't matter if, label like Polyvinyl, which is like the start, if they, all of a sudden they start putting out music from black artists, and I hope they do, and I hope
Yep.
they do use that leverage. But then to me, it's just getting to the point that that's just the bare minimum, where
Yep.
it's just like, and it's not even like, and if I've already feel being weird and like out of place in like white world indie rock, I always just, and I see a lot of my black friends who make indie rock or just musicians in general, and seeing how they feel, and they tell me it's like only like, it's like a real thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so it would be cool to see more like monetary funding where it's like things um stop being so like insular and like clicky, and more of like, I guess, the resources being spread out, where it's just
Yeah.
like even just some info and or just some things of like how to do it, because a lot of these sort of things are so gatekeeped. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I've done Citrus City for like, it's going on to 6 years soon, and it hasn't been until I feel like this year, as silly as it is, when that Pitchfork article came, people are like, "Oh shit, so you're actually like, I can take you serious now." And I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
like I'm doing the same thing I've always been doing. Maybe I've just changed things up a bit, but it's still just like a one person run thing out of my apartment wherever I move, and it's
Yeah.
like like working class based. Like, I don't know, like it's really funny.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, the most important thing about a label from my eyes is just resources. And not even money resources, like give me a directory of people who do videos, photographers, like they have these connections and people who are really talented where you wouldn't, like if you DM'd 100 photographers, maybe one of them gets back to you, it's like, but if someone from the label reaches out, you get an immediate response, and that's like the beauty of a label. And the only thing that I really see is valuable, because you can manufacture the records yourself now. You could
Yeah.
do the tapes, you could put the shit on Spotify yourself, and they don't get a cut. You keep 100% of it, and you can be your own boss, and you can
Hmm.
make decisions like, oh, I like this videographer, well, this person might fit better for this song, because I've had people who are in like Secretly Canadian and other big labels like that. They look at me and they're like, I'm envious, man. Like, you get to pick the videographers you want, the photographers you want. Like, we kind of just have to go with what they say. And I guess it's a positive and negative to everything.
Yeah.
I wish I had their financial backing, because everything takes so much longer for me. Like, if
Yeah.
I need to save at least $1,000 just to get a video done, and it's like,
Hmm.
or like I have now, a camera, and I just film everything myself now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, what inspired you to start a label? Like, was that something you've been wanting to do? When did it officially start?
It started, I would say like around 2014, when I was in community college. Um, I was like a writer at this site called Indie Current.
Mm,
I wanted to be like a music journalist. That's why I was
yeah.
like going to school for. But then I don't know. I got sent to cover Beach Goth for that fall.
Oh, cool.
Uh, yeah. So when it was like,
2014.
yeah,
I may have been there.
it was
Yeah.
pretty cool. I remember it was like what, Atlas Plaza. Shannon and the Clams playing
Cool.
as I think Metallica songs. I don't know. It was really cool, and I got sent around to like other like little small festivals on the East Coast. But when I
Cool.
got sent out west, I was like, damn, I'm really kind of doing this and like shit. But um, I'm like, I got really jaded with that because a lot of the things that I wanted to write about, like wasn't getting like published. It was just mostly like indie pop and things. I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, I'm trying to write about this like hip hop artist in like Richmond or like this and that, like um, like a beat tape or like this like post punk band, and it's like nah, this is like just too jarring and blah blah blah. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
and I was just getting discouraged because then I would try to pitch things to like the Fader, or like Stereo Gum, or like even like Go Flake Paint and like things. I was like writing for the Gray Estates for like a bit, um, but I got bored with that. Just I was like, I want to be more involved. I feel like like yeah, an article can be cool and helpful, but I want to like I want to be more hands on, and so
Yeah.
I met my friend Renee, and they're from El Salvador, so we just really connected, being like a couple of Latinx folks, like being into like alternative indie music, um, and we really like hit it off because I saw they were wearing a Wave shirt, and I was like, oh, I saw Waves like last week, and they were like, oh, me too, I was at that show, and we're like, oh,
Nice.
sick, like, and that's how it kind of started, and so a lot of the earlier releases were from folks who I had met being a writer, and just really like they would like I really became friends with them and established this like I don't know there was this super early dream pop like Facebook community, um and like that's where I met like the folks in Hoops and stuff, and like a
Cool.
lot of the other early projects and things, and like I don't know it, but when that time was super dream pop oriented,
Yep.
I met a lot of folks like that, and so they would like tell me how they would send stuff to labels and wouldn't hear back and stuff, and I'd already had the idea and everything, and I learned how to make tapes and things, and I was just kind of like, yo, I'm gonna start a label, like let me put out your music, and that's how it started, and like
Wow.
just to like the whole thing at first was like I wanted to help like underrated or like overlooked like artists, and like over time things have just evolved as like because I never been around like a actual scene. So it wasn't until I moved to Richmond I was still on that like, yeah, music, like it's
Mm-hmm.
because it's music, dude. Like what? Like, and so maybe then moving into Richmond and starting to integrate myself in the Richmond scene, I was like, damn man, these fools are so white. What the fuck?
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. So Hoops, who are some of the first releases?
Um, so the first releases were like, have you ever heard of Boys Age?
Yeah.
Yeah, Boys Age. Right now they go by Cathedral Bells, but before they used to go by Deer Tracks.
Cool.
Um, Max Gardner,
Cool.
um, Wunderbar, just some like random kind of bands here and there. Like JTV was like a hoop side project.
Sweet.
Um, a
Yeah.
couple bands from France, Born Idiot and Beach Youth. I don't know if you've heard of them,
Mm-mm.
but yeah, I think it's like super just indie pop, dream pop.
That's awesome. Yeah. I opened for Wunderbar in San Luis Obispo in
Oh
California.
heck yeah!
Yeah, it was cool. They're nice guys. And then I saw them the following night with the Lemon Twigs, like at Non Plus Ultra in LA.
Nice.
So crazy to look back on that show and be like, wow, both of those bands blew the fuck up.
Yeah, it's really crazy because I remember meeting Wunderbar like fall of 2015, or actually summer of 2014 at a house show, and then I just started booking their house shows and shows in Richmond, and then
That's cool.
and yeah, I just remember the first time seeing them in like a living room, and now they're like huge. I'm like, damn, y'all, like
Yeah, man.
I really saw you start in the mud.
they've taken that lane of like just releasing music as often as they want to
Yeah, they're so
touring
independent.
and touring super hard.
Yeah, they're crazy. I don't know how they do it. Sometimes I'm just like, y'all need to chill.
It gets addicting though, man. If after a few tours, if you do like a couple in a row, it's like, damn, what the fuck am I doing home?
No, I totally feel you when with Crumb when I tour managed them 2 tours back, like 3 tours back to back. I was
Yeah.
like, damn, man, my life on the road.
Especially if you're single, man, there's nothing better than being on the road. Like, because it gets harder when now that I'm in a serious relationship when I have to leave, and you're just like texting, "I miss you," like I want to be home, I want to be home. But when you're
Yeah, and it's like
single, it's like, who cares? Just worry about yourself.
the different time zones and
It
the
gets super rough.
yeah the overall just like being here and there. Yeah, but
It can get tough, man. But I say if you're young and you're single, hit the fucking road. Like, what else are you doing? Like,
yeah,
if you want to take this music thing serious, like I should have done that. I didn't do that when I was in my 20s, and I should have. But also, the first tours we booked by ourselves were so trash that I it almost ruined touring for me because I just didn't know how to do it.
dude, yeah, it's difficult at first, and it's just the first few tours are always like it's like damn, this is work because you could it gets so demoralizing sometimes because you could
Yeah.
have like maybe 2 solid shows. It's like being run great, it's like everything is chill.
Yep.
And then you can have a night where it's like might be playing a house somewhere and we're not taking donations. It's like a whole
Yeah.
thing, and it's like it's overall just more of like a this is such a headache. And sometimes you hit a few of those in a row and it's like, bro, what am I doing? Like I've a lot of the early tours, because I would book tours for like folks on the label,
Mm-hmm.
from Richmond to go like up north and south. And yeah, some of them were just so crazy where I'm just like, what the fuck are we doing, yo?
Yeah. That's insane, man. Yeah, that like, and when I first started touring was like 2011. There wasn't Airbnb, like stuff like that's made touring really easy, and I guess there was like Booking.com and stuff like that. But sometimes we most of the time we just slept in our car, and I still do that. I did that on my last tour. I slept in the van, but like I don't know. There's just certain things that have made it easier to tour. You know?
Hmm. Yeah, Airbnb like is definitely like because Airbnb was not a thing yet when some of the early ones that I went. And so like I don't know what it is that sometimes Airbnb is a whole lot cheaper than
Yeah.
like a hotel. So I don't know, dude. Sometimes I'm like, even like trying to get a hotel at that time was like, damn, we're about to drop some money because we made some money.
Yeah,
So
man. I've been pretty lucky on the hotel front this last tour. Like I got some really nice places like uh for cheap and but it fucking adds up after a while, man. And then you're looking at the Excel spreadsheet for the tour and you're like, "Ooh, I think we've gone a little crazy on the hotels.
yeah,
I think we need to chill. I think we need to ask some friends." But it's like tough, you know. We've been pretty lucky with some friends in like Texas who are always down to let us crash, but if sometimes you feel like, "Oh, I don't want to ask you again," like I don't know, maybe that's just us.
no, sometimes it's like, um, there's just some folks, and especially in like they're just kind of like your music friends or like tour friend, like that you keep in touch with, but not as much. So sometimes I feel bad where it's like, damn, I only really hit you up when we're about to be in town or like whatever. Like it needs to
Yeah.
crash, it needs to crash. But a lot of the times I think the friends on my end they just get pretty stoked. They're like, hell yeah, like
Yeah.
just I'll get to show you around for one day. And I don't know, it's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
touring has been a big blessing, at least for me, just because like I'm not a musician or like make music or anything. So um, I guess going from like DIY tours and then seeing things gradually grow and like because I booked a lot of Crumb's earlier shows and
Yeah.
tours, um, and then to see it from like they did a DIY tour with Lance Bangs, and then like the next tour it was like with Alex G and Howdy, and then from there it just kind of kept going. So seeing it gradually just grow to each sort of level. With when this one was like there was like 1,000 cap rooms sold out, like
Yeah.
850, like like two shows in LA back to like things like that. I'm like, this shit is crazy, and I
Yeah.
don't know, to see the big crowds that they draw and stuff. I was like, damn, this is really nuts.
It's like, how did we get here?
Yeah, and they're still independent, which is really cool.
That's so cool. I actually don't know any of them. I've been wanting to talk to them. Like I was like, oh, I should ask them to be on the podcast or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know they're out in LA right now. They've been working on an album.
Oh, that's cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. I feel this is like a conversation I've been having with a lot of people right now, but like I think I'm done with albums, man. I think I'm just gonna start dropping a single a month for the next like year. You
Yo,
know?
it seems like people are just dropping singles or like EPs or and just mostly
Yeah.
like singles.
How do you feel that's gonna affect, the label and tape side of things? Like if there's no albums coming out, like
I think so. I think what's gonna happen is that I guess like I'm all for people having their own autonomy and things and control, and the way things are going, where like so a lot of the younger rappers, the way I see it, have now just always been going independent.
mm-hmm.
Maybe you sign like a deal, but I think what happened, what I really saw, I guess, from my time was when Chief Keef got signed to Interscope, and then when he got dropped, he was like, "Well, I'm just gonna start releasing music and music and music."
Yeah.
And so now seeing that, because rappers, I feel like have always been doing that, where they like independent, make their own like label, and if they get signed, their whole imprint gets signed, and it's like I'm still my own boss. I'm just like
Yeah.
a subsidiary, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but seeing now more indie musicians, um, like a lot of bigger labels miss out on bands like Crumb because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the way things are structured is still like the old, like esoteric ways where it's like we own like 70% of your shit and we give you pretty much a fucking loan that
Yep.
we have to make back and some because we're putting production costs into this and this and this.
Yep.
And then the band is like, damn, so you own this for 25 years. And let's say for those 25 years, it's the main like for those 10 years, 5 years, whatever, it's going to be hot. So when it's like hot and in circulation, the main time that you'll be making any sort of revenue is going to go directly to them to make
Yep.
back the investment that they made. And yeah, you mean you get like a bit of percentage, but 100% is way better than 30%, 40%.
Exactly.
And so what is going on is that you know just with the internet and how things are becoming more direct with like fan or just like other people engagement, that a band like Crumb, all they really needed was like a PR person, a booking agent, and now that things have grown, they have a manager to help them run like the business side of things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's really all they need, because if they're gaining all that attraction themselves, like no one is paying, like giving them money to make videos, like no one is like paying them to go to the studio. All they're still self like sufficient in terms of like they're putting in their own money for like the
Yeah.
videos, like the merch and stuff, like you know um everything is, they've collaborated with everyday people, like just a random person like me. The person who makes the videos is our friend like Hayan, and who does like the graphics and animation is our friend Alex. Like there's so many people involved that just do everyday things.
Mm-hmm.
um so I think more artists are realizing that's like, damn, like there's people who want to like help us out for the like for the sake of it. And I think it's like just with how direct the internet is, like before you get on a label, because they have their like insect community or fan
Mm-hmm.
base, and they're like, look, because we're signing you and offering you this, we can like we have 1 million people that buy our records, like so you'll be introduced to 1 million people, right? But what's the like what does a band like Crumb have to do that if they're getting their own traction and followers on their like in an organic manner? And so I feel
Yeah.
like more indie artists are going that route where they're like, oh, I'm working on this song and I really like it. Yeah, I'm just gonna put this out. I'll
Yeah.
just put it up on my DistroKid account is like this unlimited amount that I'll just put up a song or like this and this, you know. And so that's why I'm seeing a lot more like secretly like distribution is giving more like working directly with artists and being like, hey, like we'll help you make the records and everything and putting them in stores, and that makes more sense where if you like an independent band themselves like cannot fulfill and like keep up with
Oh yeah.
orders like that,
Yeah.
so stuff like that makes sense, and I'm glad that more things like that are happening. What it leaves out for labels is that I think labels need to pivot into just providing physical mediums and strictly coming up with striking up a deal where it's like, all right, I like you want tapes and or like vinyl, something big, let's say vinyl, something bigger where it's like I'll put up the production, I'll make 500 copies, we'll split them evenly, like you get 250, I get 250. um I sell my amount to make the production cost. And if just selling the label amount doesn't make it back, where it's like, okay, and maybe if you sell the record for $25, you give me $2 from each sale. You know what I mean? Like coming up with some more of a physical like model is what I would like it to go to,
Yeah.
because the way mine thing is, it's just mostly working 50-50, but I don't charge anyone to make more tapes unless if there's like you want some for like a tour or something, and if it's
Yeah.
already out of print, I'm like, okay, because you want some more tapes, just give me like $2 from each sale, or just like, you know what I mean, just give me this amount to cover the production costs. I don't keep any, you just sell them on tour, you know
Yep.
what I mean? And that's why I like have a bunch of duplicators, a bunch of blanks, cases, the sticker labels and J card like templates, and I just print everything out myself.
Oh, so you do that all yourself then?
Yeah, sometimes I do it all
Oh,
myself,
cool.
or I get them, like depending on how like special the release is, or if it's like an album that's like, okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna do it all, we'll get them pro dubbed, or I make them pro dubbed made, and then I like with the printing and like everything, and then I just dub them in home.
Mm,
So I like do stuff like that.
I see. Yeah, that's always been like the model when we were working with Lollipop. It's handshake deal. We'll make them, we split them. That's it. Like it's when it's I just did a podcast with Wyatt from Lollipop last week, but that or this week I guess on Monday, but it's when they and I started working on like a contract with each other is when it fucking fell apart and it got nasty and yeah.
Yeah, see, and that's when it's one of those things that if you're gonna do a contract, I get where it's like to hold one and the other accountable, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like I haven't done contracts because it's like I know my limitations, and I know that at the end of the day, I'm a tape label, and I'm
Yep.
glad that there's people that are receptive to what I do, because there has been a organic community that has been built. But then, sometimes I've done releases where people expect, just because I put out Crumb and Wunderbar and maybe this other band and this other band, and it did well, and you know, sometimes they don't forget where it's like Crumb had their own like, still even at that time, just a PR person, you know what I
Mm.
mean? And I was like their booker slash manager, so it was like they already had a pretty like reputable like publicist, so
Mm-hmm.
that was helping them. And like while I recognize the things that I helped out, like I can only do so much with in-house PR, like but sometimes
Yeah.
there are these illusions or things where like sometimes things don't work out the way an artist kind of anticipates. So when it's like in with a contract, I just haven't done them, and that's why I'm straight up with people. I'm like, look, this is just more like a community oriented thing, and these are the things that you're gonna get. I can help out with this and this, but if you wanna make it, do that. a lot of that work, buddy, unfortunately, is going to have to come from you
Yeah.
and investing that money where it's like, I can only do so much with press, but if you want to get on like the main things, you have to invest in getting a good publicist. If you want to start opening up more like, big direct support tours, like start doing the digging where like you find the contacts of the agents. You know what I mean? Stop sometimes always hitting up the venue or the bookers there.
Oh,
Sometimes you have to
oh,
get,
never hit the venue up.
yeah.
The venue absolutely has no say in it.
Yeah, they really don't. Yo,
It
I'm gonna walk out if that's cool.
that's cool.
I'll still be on. The vet is like 3 minutes away, and I gotta take my dog.
No worries, man. Well,
Yeah, like
y- yeah.
nah, but I don't know, dude. That seems to be the vibe. That some things that people don't know, and so I always try to like, because like I said, all that info is gatekeep.
Yep. All of
So
it, man. Yeah. So that's always some of my first advice because people ask me, you know, how to get on shows, and it's like, don't hit the venue. Maybe the promoter has a little sway, but barely. And you gotta
yeah,
talk to the bands and the agents, like really.
and I feel like when even if a lot of the times venues do kind of have a say, they put on people who they're friends with, or they
Yeah.
put the worst bands.
Yep.
They put the worst bands.
I've definitely experienced that. Like, why is that band playing after us? Like, oh well, they're friends with the owner and stuff like that. It's like, all right, shit. Did we lose you? We may have lost them.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, my bad. Yeah,
It's
just
okay.
stepped out real quick. My
No,
bad.
it's all good. But yeah, well, we can wrap it up, man. If you got a couple things you gotta do, but I just wanted to thank you for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to just kind of talk things out, just
Hell yeah.
talk to another, like, fellow Latinx person.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in these times, it's just nice to talk to anyone, you know.
For real. How are things been on your end quarantine wise?
So, for my personal end, it's been
Mm-hmm.
fine. Just been writing and kind of making out like I'll reach out to some people for graphic design stuff, or I'm just like I download Photoshop, so I'm kind of figuring it out on my own too, and
Mm-hmm.
downloaded Premiere, so video editing all the stuff myself too, and it's like the perfect time. Like I don't know, maybe the first month I was a little like I don't know, I just don't feel energized, I don't feel like motivated, but like come to the second month of like April, I was like fuck this, I need to get shit done. Like I have so much time right now to
Mm-hmm.
get shit done. Like I don't know if there's a lot of excuses, like, and I get mental health and you should take time off if you want, but like for me, the way I work is like I need to keep moving. Like I can't stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally feel you.
But I totally understand when people need to take time off and step away from the music for a second. But for me, yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta
well,
keep going.
that's good that you found like what makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally think whatever works for other people is great, but for me, let's go. Let's go. Like I'm dropping shit next Friday and I'm just going to keep going to the end of the year and
Oh,
just keep
nice.
yeah. It was
Dang. So
going to
yeah,
it was going to be an album, but I'm just going to drop them now.
dude, that's sick. Nah, I definitely think like putting out singles and just putting out music, is the move. Just because I don't know, man. It's always cool. Just like if there's always gonna be people who are gonna check it out, and there's always gonna be new people who are gonna listen. So I
Exactly.
feel like the whole notion of like, I gotta wait like a year and a half because I put out this album around this sort of time, or like
Yep.
I put this and this around this time, and everything being so calculated. It's just like I just feel like that's just not how the world works, and people engage with music.
Exactly. Yeah. And for my past, it's always been like that. That's why like my albums are like 2 years apart from each other even though I'm not on a label. And it's
Hmm.
silly, but like I made, that's what I wanted to do back then. But now I'm just like I don't, 30, fuck it. Let's just drop them.
Well, that's awesome, dude. I can't wait to listen to the new.
Hell yeah, man. Well, hell yeah. If there's any way people can support Citrus City, what's the best way?
We have a Patreon,
Okay.
a Citrus City Patreon, and you know, a lot of that helps to upkeep like everyday things with the label about like buying like more cases, mailers with shipping costs. It helps offset things like that. So yeah, the Citrus City Patreon is the best way, and like you know, Bandcamp too.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Bandcamp waiving their fees first Friday of every month. Yeah,
Yeah,
Patreon.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, Patreon, Bandcamp. Well, dude, thank you so much, man.
No, you're welcome, dude. It was good
Hell yeah.
chatting. Have a good one.
Hey, man, I'll talk to you soon.